What happens is when we're developing a mind for the human experience, we are coming from this absolute place into the density of experience. And what happens is, as we're going through, we kind of we have no contrast as to the absolute, because there's only been that, right? That's where we've come from. We don't have memory to access. It's just the absolute. Then there's somehow solid in density, and we seem to overlook or not interpret or not understand the absolute peace and happiness and freedom from which we came. And this is where we start to suffer. This doesn't imply suffer. This doesn't mean suffering. This means the physical aspect of experience, individuality, the world of experience. It doesn't mean suffering. But what happens is this can imply suffering. Suffering can be created from that experience, because in this world alone, there is duality. And we get stuck and lost in this duality. So what happens is suffering is caused, then all of a sudden we wake up to this. We wake up to this dot. This dot is the spiritual awakening that we all know. And what happens is this dot then takes us over to the absolute. We come through this little portal, so we come through the absolute, out of the ignorance, and then we end up here. And we say, oh, I've had a spiritual awakening. This was a realization. I know my true nature. There is only God. There is only infinity. There's only the absolute. Nothing exists. The world is an illusion. And then we start to discredit all of this. We start to say, this is illusory. This is real. And I need to stay here and get away from this. And what happens is then we create a new duality, the duality that says that there is no individual, there is no person, there is just absolute being, nothing matters, and we just need to, and that's freedom. And what we mistake then is that we come from realizing this, we realize that, hold on a minute, the only realization I was having, this was implicit in it. Because I've spoke to people who said before, like it didn't matter that they were a parent. They thought it was hilarious how we've suffered and how suffering ever happens. But this completely discredits and disregards the fact that on one level, suffering it does exist. It doesn't ultimately exist, yet it does exist. Otherwise, we would have never suffered. You would have never suffered. You would not be on this path right now. So the problem is when we discredit these parts of reality in favor of this. Because if we were really in favor of this, we would be very much in favor of this. This is our individuality. This is our world. If we avoid this, we're basically avoiding this. We are avoiding reality. This is where peace and happiness takes place. Not just that. Peace and happiness takes place when we realize these are the exact same thing. Implicit in the experience of truth is the implicit in the experience of life, and implicit in the experience of life is implicit with the experience of truth. They're not two different things. So we're not here to try, and most people then, they end up here. They end up in this side of the spectrum, again, after going through their awakening, and they have a little trace of this. And what they tend to do is, instead of trying to be the entire spectrum, they try to go back here. Where's my awakening? I was awoken once, and I woke to my true nature, and I don't know how to get back there. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't know how to wake up again. I'm back in ignorance. The world is illusory, and I just need to get back to my absolute consciousness. It's a complete mistake. Now, the problem that we have, this is actually a really heavy iPad. My fingers are kind of hurting holding it. The problem that we have, I'm just going to put this there while I'm not speaking with it. The problem is that we have this idea that we need to be all in the white, that the white is the place to be. But really, the white is not the place to be. The white is everything. The white is the entire thing, if we want to put it that way. And that is what true awakening is. Oh my God. Look at the way I'm trying to hold it like a little baby. The white is trying to take us to realize that this is the place to be. This is the paradox, that they are both the same thing. They are both all ultimately the same thing. And if we discredit that, then we discredit a part of reality. And as reality, we create reality. We create whatever reality there is. So we are just as much the birds and the bees as we are the trees and the leaves. We are just as much the trees and the leaves that we are the absolute nature of them, which creates the appearance of them. We are the idea of duality. We are the idea of non-duality. We're the idea that there could be both. We are the idea that everything, we are the concept of being an individual. We are the experience of being an individual. We are the experience of being the absolute. We are the experience of no experience. This is the paradox. We are absolutely everything. And we believe that we are just this when we're not. We are absolutely everything. And to the depth that we can comprehend that paradox is to the depth that we awaken, because then there is nothing avoided and everything is loved. This is why we find it important when our daughter shares us a picture that they've drawn, or this is why we give equal credits to all experience. So what we're doing is basically, we're not just trying to go back here, we're trying to go here. And here, the entire thing has always been our experience. There has never been another experience other than that. The reason we seem to have a state of awakening is because we just experience a polarized version of this, which is going to be different, because that's not what we're always experiencing. We're always experiencing that. A classic state of mind awakening, or a state of awakening, is like experiencing a condensed version of that. And that usually is because we've had such a condensed version of this that we needed a little bit of that just to balance it out. And then when we realize that, people think, no, I just need this because this is where the happiness and peace takes place. And this world of illusion that causes me to suffer is where I don't want to be. They're the same thing. We have to see it that way. Not to say it that they're the same thing in the sense of the world is real and a fundamental physical reality is real. It's not. It's made of being. But the being that it is made of is giving it reality, which gives it the reality that it is, you see? So what this means then is that we have always been having this experience, and this was a state. If you ever had an awakening experience, it was a state. And what we tend to do is we say, oh, well, the state that I was in must have been what I should look for, so we want to go back there. But really, the state was just to wake us up to this. And then when we were here, we awoken to that. Now we want to awaken to the entire thing. We want to understand this is already the nature of our experience. Therefore, what would change? We've always been experiencing this. So to know that, we rest in where we already have been permanently, which is the paradox, which I call the harmonox. The solved, completed paradox. The comprehension of the paradox solves the paradox. And because that should not happen, you shouldn't be able to solve the paradox. That's what creates another paradox, but it's solved, so it's a harmonox. And this is the place to be. This is where teachers aren't teaching. They're teaching one level because it takes so long just to realize this. That's basically where people go. 99% of the teaching is trying to get to this. That's not where we're supposed to be. This is where we're supposed to be. We are the entire thing. So in order to be there, we need to recognize that if we're here again and we have a sense of our true nature, not to try and get there, we want to understand the whole paradox so that we can live beyond it. That's the place to be beyond that paradox. We are free from all potential things. We are free from experience. Yet, we live in experience. There's no greater freedom than that. So, I have a free community. This is exactly what I teach in my community. If this is something you're interested in, feel free to join. The link is in the description. It's also in my bio. It's also everywhere you could possibly find a link. So, have an amazing day, guys. Take care. Goodbye.